I want all of you to keep listening when I make Kirblog. You got it. This question comes from a listener named Sean. Is there a case where you might be too good as an art profession or something that might end up undermining your peers or unintentionally discourage them? This question came to me thinking of people who demonstrated high proficient skill or talent, or having people, such as professors, employers, critics, or friends, constantly cite one person and frequently pulling examples from this one person. Is it something that encourages the people around to do better, or does it only make them feel worse about their work or skill? And should you feel good about having your work constantly praised, or is there some bad points to it? I'd love to hear your opinion. This is a really good one. Thank you, Sean. So I have been living in California for about a year, and I'm surrounded by mostly people who are within my age, mostly people who are either getting their start or in the process of, building their career, and they're still kind of early on trying to figure themselves out and everything. I know people in the comic book illustration world, the animation world, the voiceover and acting world, a lot of people who are getting their grounding. I know a lot of people who are also industry professionals who have been working for a very long time. I know people who are lagging behind and who are ahead of where I am at my current skill level. And I have been experiencing stuff like this from, I want to say, about like maybe mid-high school or so. Around high school, maybe like second or third year, was when I really determined for sure what it is that I wanted to be doing with my life. By that point, I had, really owned the fact that I'm a creator. I'm a person who wants to create my own stories and, be involved with them on all aspects and do everything I possibly can to make them come true. I have to draw, I have to animate, I have to write, I have to voice act, I have to direct, I have to do all these different things, I have to produce. That was around the time that I determined that. But a lot of it was all stemming from just drawing. And so I was surrounded by, particularly this, I'm going to start kind of from the beginning, is I was surrounded by folks like Mike Lucas and Zach Bellissimo, who objectively are better artists than I am. And when I say that, I mean they draw better than I do. Their craftsmanship and just basic skill sets are infinitely better than mine. I do other things that they don't, but just as an artist, I think that they their skills far surpass me, and I think that they always have. And when I was in high school, admittedly, that was a little difficult, and I felt like I needed to measure up. But I was also very swept up in the idea of filmmaking, which was kind of my thing that I had to myself that nobody else did. I was making stuff on Newgrounds. I was just beginning to animate a lot of stuff, and doing the early TV Tome Adventures and then eventually Parody Rangers and all that stuff. That was kind of in like the mid to early 2000s or so. And ultimately, that was also what eventually got me into the School of Visual Arts. It was the fact that I was doing filmmaking and making my own flash cartoons, I think more so than my drawing skills, that got me into college. Because we got interviewed, we had to show our portfolios and everything, and I had a portfolio of art prints and things that I had done, but really what it was my animation, and so I really clung on to that. And Mike Lucas went off to go study comic book illustration at SVA, and Zach Bellissimo went to the animation major with me. So we were both in the same year. And in my first year, I also met Michael Ruracco, who, since moving out here a year or two before I did, he's been working at a whole bunch of different studios. He worked on BoJack Horseman. He worked on this new Bugs Bunny Wabbit series that's coming out soon. And he's kind of been all over the place, and he's really talented. And he was way ahead of really a lot of us in our first year. And I know that he wouldn't say that himself because he's a very humble guy, but I would say he was a guy that was, he already had a big head start because he really studied the crap out of animation, before he even got to college, and he knew all these different things and bestowed a lot of knowledge upon me. And I was really happy to learn everything that I did from him. And ultimately, we went through 4 years of college, and I was continuing to produce stuff on the side, and trying to hone my own skills as a filmmaker and a storyteller and an artist. Now, other than my first year of college where I got a little distracted by, a lot of the brawl taunts nonsense and everything and a lot of the shit that was going on with that, I would say that I worked pretty hard in college because I knew that, whatever I've talked about this on another Kirblog just about my general college experiences, but, I knew that it was whatever I was going to make of it. So I really tried to put 100% of myself into it. I always put my schoolwork before my other projects, my personal stuff, because I did all three of the Nintendo collabs, through and through, and the Parody Rangers movie as well. I did all of that stuff, and I did the Parody Rangers movie, all three parts of it, all three of the Nintendo collabs, and all three of the Brawl Tonses, and some other stuff in between during my 4 years at SVA. And I did that stuff in tandem because I thought, okay, I want to go above and beyond. I want to step up my game. I want to be better, and I want to do more stuff. I need to, continue to be productive and do whatever I can to get better as everything that I was doing. During that time, I also ended up getting to do my first professional voiceover gigs on Pokemon. And then, as I've also often talked about, I had my little wake-up call about, I need to be finished with the video game parody phase already and move on to doing what it is that I really want to do, which is original animation and storytelling. So I started very early on my thesis film, Balancing Act. I wrote the entire thing in the fall of my third year of college. I already had it planned out, at least the first draft, and then I ended up cutting it down a bit. Storyboarded the entire thing over the summer, and then ultimately spent an entire year, I keep saying ultimately, sorry, but I'm trying to get to something here. I spent an entire year on making my thesis film the absolute best thing I've ever made in my life. The best animation, the best voice performances, the best art, the best look, the best everything, the best production, absolutely everything that I could possibly do. And I worked really hard to make it just something incredibly stand out. And in the end, we had our screening and then we had an award ceremony, and I didn't win anything. I basically received no major recognition for my film. I screened it at one film festival that was local to where I was in Long Island. It didn't really amount to much. I think I booked a freelance gig with the person who ran the festival afterward, which was nice. But other than that, it didn't really amount to too much more, and there wasn't much that came out of it. Meanwhile, Mike Caracco and Zach Bellissimo both won awards. They actually tied for one of the awards, as a matter of fact, and Zach won another one by himself. And then both of them ended up moving out to California at least a year or two, or more than that, honestly, than I did. And I've been out here, and again, I am surrounded by a lot of people who are still trying to break into the industry. And they are very, very intense about wanting to push themselves to be better. Now, as I've spent the last 7 minutes explaining and prefacing all this shit, the interesting thing about this topic and this question is I don't necessarily have a finite answer because I am still in the middle of actually experiencing this. The issue that comes with, I guess if you want to call it, it's not really peer pressure. It's pressure that you put on yourself. It's me pressure, because peer pressure, I think is meant with a more negative connotation. But like a lot of my friends who are actually further than I am, even though there's a lot of competitive spirit, there's a lot of like, I got to do this and I got to get further and I got to climb higher up the chain of whatever, art form that I'm studying, whatever medium I do, etc., whether it's acting, drawing, animating, whatever, writing. I should mention I know some writers as well. There's also still often a sense of camaraderie. Sometimes it gets blotted out by a lot of, high school dramatical bullshit. I'm not going to lie. That is a thing that still definitely exists. And I wouldn't even say it's a Hollywood thing. It's an entertainment business thing where there's drama like that between people and biases. And, I witness it all the time. I'm sure I'm subject to it myself, and I'm guilty of it myself as well. But often what I find is that even in the frustrating moments of where I feel like I'm falling behind and I'm not, doing as much as I could be, I always feel like there's a sense of like everybody wants me to do better. it's not peer pressure for the sake of like, you're not doing well enough. It's coming from, we want you to be better because we know that you're capable of being better. A suggestion I was given by a few people who are currently kind of ahead of me in several departments was that, hey, you should, maybe, because I study a lot of different things. I do a lot of different things. And I was told, hey, maybe you should focus on honing the skill of, one particular thing over the course of, a couple months or whatever. And I get very short. I hesitate to say ADD, but I feel like I need to constantly be doing a million things. I mean, I kind of force myself into the position of that in that I'm, producing 4 videos currently every single week for my YouTube channel, which is partially to make money. And I have to do freelance work. I have to do all this stuff. I have to be able to survive in addition to just studying. As it turns out right now, I happen to be doing a lot of writing. And there are other particular things that I want to start studying more, including a skill that I actually, well, for one thing, I'm not super proficient at, but I also don't like doing very much, which is storyboarding. Storyboarding is an incredibly important skill to have in the animation business because it's where a lot of the jobs are. The problem for me is that I don't like boarding very much because, like with Tome, there were very few sequences that I actually storyboarded traditionally. I usually just straight up open the animatic with the, the voice recording already done and cut together and timed out, and I'll just go to town on on laying out the drawings and animating and timing everything out that way. But it's something that I need to do. And one person who actually has been a big help in just kind of, being a supporter in me trying to improve myself actually is Andrew Dickman, who is somebody that, going back to the beginning of this, is somebody who I followed the works of on Newgrounds many, many, many years ago, actually long before, maybe not too long, but definitely before I started doing anything on Newgrounds myself with any of my animation projects. And he's been in the business for 10 years, and the funny thing was, so earlier this week, so just a few days ago before this was going up, I took for the first time in a few years, pretty much since college, a life drawing class. It's one of the most basic, important things that is tied to pretty much all aspects of art that is incredibly important for anybody, whether you're doing comics or animation or just straight up like painting or whatever. Like drawing from life is, and it can be tedious. I've been pretty bad at it. Like even in college when we had 5-hour life drawing classes every single week, I couldn't fully get into it, and then as a result, I never got all that great at it. But I was told about this local life drawing class session that they were having, and Andrew invited me, and so I went with him, Mike Iroko, who has been in the industry for at least 2 or 3 years now, maybe longer, and Mike Lucas and Steve Yurko, who both just moved out here within the last few months, and they're both comic artists, and they want to start working in the business out here too. And me, who's been out here for a year, and I'm still not. All 5 of us in that class felt like, even if we're not like on equal skill levels and in different aspects and in different capacities, all of us were doing the same basic thing. And there was a sense of weakness in like, like I think Baraka was saying, like, oh, I feel a little rusty, like I could do better on these. And, I was really trying my hardest and wasn't entirely sure in the beginning if I was doing very well. Andrew would come over and give me some specific tips and, some things to keep in mind while I was doing some of them. And, by the end of it, I felt pretty happy with a few of them. We did a lot of different types, including, as we suggested, thanks to, I think Baraka made the suggestion, was doing like 1 minute, really quick poses that we sketched out, which were awesome. And our model was fantastic. Our model, Heather, who did a lot of really great poses to work off of. But yeah, like doing that life drawing session, I felt like on an equal playing field. And it reminds me of what it is that I often forget about what I keep perceiving as sometimes, whether it feels like peer pressure or whether it actually is me pressure. I was reminded by that life drawing class of what it is that I need to keep in mind, that I often overlook, is that you need to stop comparing yourself to other people, including whether it's people who are below you, quote unquote, or rather they're just not as far along with themselves, in their ability or in their career as you. And you especially need to stop and when I mean you, I mean myself included, and you from a general sense, anybody listening to this, especially need to stop comparing yourself to people who are further along than you. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. It's such an easy trap to fall into, and it's not fair to yourself. It's not fair to the other people that you are comparing yourselves to. It's not fair to anybody to do it. But again, it's very easy to fall into it. Because when you look at yourself and, like in my case, like I constantly doubt, even though I'm told by people, oh, Chris, you have a really great work ethic. You work really hard. I don't know if I do. I have no idea if I actually do work hard, because other people would say that I don't. Other people would say that I'm not very good at really learning anything over a long period of time. And, I've said this on some of the Tome commentaries and probably a lot of other Kirblogs about how often I'm not always sure like how much I really learned and how much I really progressed as an artist and as a storyteller, as a writer, as an actor, all throughout the course of Tome for 4 years. I don't know, because I feel like in cases like that, it's up for other people to determine whether I'm really as far along as I should be. And even that is something that I'm not entirely sure of myself either. It's like when you think like I'm a good person and I'm good at what I do. It's like, is that really up for you to determine that, or is it up for other people in how they perceive you and how they interact with you and how you impact other people? That defines that. And I mean, that's up for debate too. And I don't know if that's really the best mentality to take. It's currently what it is that I'm experiencing, because I'm at this kind of crossroads where I'm not really sure what the next big long-term thing for me is going to be now that Tome is over. I have a bunch of stuff up in the air, and in the meantime, I'm trying to just stay productive, and I'm trying to continue to learn and push myself, which again was also, as we're over halfway through the year now, that was part of my 2015 New Year's resolutions, and it's something that I'm trying, whether or not I'm working hard enough at it. It's something that I know in my heart and in my mind that I'm trying to do. And but in the long run, what I know is that the people that I'm surrounded with, because toxic people I throw out of my life pretty quickly. I can't deal with that kind of stuff. I know that the people that I'm surrounded with are ones who are supportive, who want me to do well. I know that I want myself to do well. I just have to figure out exactly what the next path is for myself to take. And but so this is a bit of an unusual Kirblog, and then it's like I'm almost kind of giving this advice to myself in a way, but I'm also trying to get this out here to anybody and everybody else too, to absorb, and especially if there are a lot of people listening to this, most likely, and I say that not to be insulting, but because a lot of the people who are further along than I don't necessarily listen to these, usually because they don't have time because they're busy working. But a lot of people who do listen to these are those who are aspiring and those who are, wanting to, get further along with their abilities. And you don't need to aspire. You just need to do. You just need to work hard. You just need to be outstanding and get to a skill level that is adequate for what it is that you want to be doing with your life. If that means that it's just doing stuff online or whatever, then that's what it needs to be. And you can just make whatever you want. If you want to work commercially, if you want to work in, the industry in some way, shape, or form, you can, you have to really step it up and you have to get to a competitive level. That's what it is that I'm trying to do right now. That's what it is that anybody else has to do when they walk this path. It's what everybody else basically has done to get where they are. The path of being in the entertainment business is not an easy one to walk, but as Rob Paulson often says, nobody put a gun to our head and said that we have to be blank, that we have to be this, we chose this, and so we have to own it, and putting pressure on ourselves or feeling like other people are putting pressure on us when they probably aren't in the first place is not going to help. That's going to do it. I am incredibly curious, as often I am, about the feedback I might get on this one. What do you think of this whole thing? What are your experiences? I'm curious because I want to know for myself. I'm genuinely seeking more answers and more knowledge about this. So, tell me about your path and where you are and where you want to be and what you've gone through. Have you felt peer pressure? Have you felt me pressure, as I'm coining the phrase now? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you have future ideas for Kirblog topics, leave a comment about that or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you want. Hope this helped. Was certainly relaxing and decompressing for me, I would say. And yeah, as always, thanks for listening. So I'll see you next time.